Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Momentus Innovator Series of interviews. I am Steve Mackenzie, the Chief Innovation Officer at Momentus Technologies, and today, extremely happy to be joined by none other than Mr. Richard Andersen, who is the Chief Illumination Officer at the Venue Solution Group. One of the best titles, I think, in the industry, the Chief Illumination Officer. So, Richard, thanks for joining us. How about, rather than me trying to rabbit on a bit about it, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, well, first, thanks so much for including me, Steve. It's a great pleasure. Yeah, so I started in this industry when I was quite young, and I've been around it for a few 24 hours at this point. My first job was with the Major League Baseball team as a minor league general manager way back in the day when it was really about being more circus than baseball. And so I did that for a while, and I've ended up with about close to 30 years of my career running stadiums, the majority of those at the Major League Baseball level. I've also overseen NFL stadiums, NBA, NHL, and MLS venues as well in my career at various times. And, married to the great Kim Badir, who is an icon in our industry, and have been really blessed by this field.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to fit everything you've done into like a 30-second overview, so I appreciate you doing that. I mean, we could have another whole interview just on some each of those areas alone, I'm sure.
Yeah, and if we included the things that I haven't done well, it would even last longer than that. So yeah,
that's great. That's great. But tell us a bit about Venue Solutions Group, and more specifically the training that you provide there.
Sure. So years ago, I met Russ Simons, another industry icon. We became great mates and friends over the years. And when I decided I wanted to go out on my own, I hung a shingle with them. So I've been in partnership with Russ Simons and Tom Williams and Mike Woolley, basically as a part of the family of VSG Services. Our group is a standalone, but we've been connected to that. And our primary focus is really around human potential, organizational development, particularly around organizational culture, the inspirational side of it. So we work with a lot of organizations around mission, vision, values, team building. We're deeply focused around igniting change. In fact, that is our organizational mission. So human potential is a big piece of that, individual professional development. We work a lot with some really well-known programs, DISC being one, Patrick Liccione's 5 Behaviors of a Team, Situational Leadership through Ken Blanchard, but we've adapted all of those into our own sort of way. And then we also do service audits. We perform service audits for a number of clients. Some people would call them mystery shoppers. I think ours is a bit more in depth than some of that. And then finally, we've carved out a bit of a niche for ourselves within supporting organizations towards hiring the most appropriate people for a position, and we utilize the DISC instrument for that as well. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Our business has grown quite a bit over the last 8 or 10 years, and we have more than 100 clients that we do live training for.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. And I've been lucky enough to have sat through some of your training, and certainly very, very inspirational, and the way you provide it's been amazing.
Thanks very much.
So no, that's absolutely true. So that sort of segues nicely though into your latest venture. You and I were talking recently, and I understand you're launching a digital series for learning opportunities. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, very interesting, and it seems like creations come out of necessities, and we were literally talking to a client about a trained crowd management program we do called Leading the Crowd that's quite successful and been really well received. And they asked me if we did this in an online or an e-learning format. And, I said we did, and they said, well, our challenge is that retention. We lose frontline staff, people don't remember things. Over time, people leave, new people come in, they weren't there for the live training. If you ever convert this to a e-format, we'd be interested. So that really spurned the insight. And over the last 2 years, we've done a really deep dive in building out, content, finding a learning management system platform that we thought was great. And we're literally in the launch now, and it's been well received. Our first program is called Leading the Crowd. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. It's completely targeted for frontline and supervisory staff for events where they're the people you most want to understand things like situational leadership, duty of care, emergency response, armed attackers, dealing with stress, dealing with difficult customers, all of those sorts of things. So it's 11 module program, deeply researched. The content has really been well received, as I said, and we're actually launching that live to the public June 9th. It's been in beta testing the last couple of weeks and done really, really well. So we're excited about that. And we see that as the beginning of a whole series of online programs, which then much better meet the client's needs in terms of flexibility, especially when you can put people online at such a cost-efficient way, and they can do it, from their homes when they want to do it 24/7, 365 days a year. So a program like this, you can take it for 20 minutes, stop, come back 2 hours later, and pick up right where you were. It's really going well, and we're really excited about the potential.
Yeah, no, that does sound pretty exciting. Certainly in this day and age, I think having those options when people can do it at their own pace and their own timing is certainly a great way to sort of build on the face-to-face that you've been doing for many years. You mentioned it was about the first program is about an hour and 20. Do you think that'll be about the time frame for a lot of these programs? A couple of hours?
Well, I don't. That's a great question. I think a lot of it will be, what does it take to effectively cover a topic? And in some cases,
Right.
we will have say a manager to leadership suite of 8 or 10 modules. And in that, there may be a series of 15 or 20-minute modules that'll cover priority management, AKA time management, which we know we can't manage time, but we can manage priorities and, effective leadership, catching people doing things right and that sort of thing. So, tried and true tips, some new, some built over the past, but they would be shorter, and there could be some that are longer, that are more in depth, like a supervisory program around essential security and safety services. So lots of things in play, and we're really excited about where this can go.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the launch and to follow that closely too, because I think you're right. This is pretty exciting. So we'll have to report back at some stage in 12 months or so and see how it's all going.
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, there's so many stories, I've heard from you and about you. One of my favorites though is you were once on Undercover Boss when you're up in Canada. What did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, I was the CEO of an organization at the time that was one of the largest multi-purpose facilities in the world, Northlands in Edmonton, Alberta. It was a phenomenal place to work, great team. We had about 1,500 part-time employees, 300 full-time. We had a gaming casino, and second largest conference center in Canada, one of the busiest arenas in the world, typically a top 15 in terms of total business in the world, and a large grounds and area for outside events and so on. So it was a really active place, and this opportunity came along. I wasn't actually very keen on it, and our marketing folks kind of talked me into it. And then once I realized what we were doing, I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to promote the brand. So they dress you up. Often people go, well, how do the staff not know what's going on? But my disguise was pretty good. Nobody apparently to this day has ever said, yeah, we knew that was you. And they tee it up. They really build on people's egos. They do a lot of research on site in advance. And the way they play off the egos is they go, hey, we're going to bring in somebody inexperienced in the venue management industry for a show on the Learning Channel. So they don't tell them it's Undercover Boss. And our show's going to focus on how difficult it is to do the sorts of jobs that are involved in whatever the field is, in our case, in sports and entertainment. So, I wore the hat of a concessionaire, of a construction worker that was rebuilding some barns and stables. We were also home of the Canadian Derby and one of the largest racetracks in Canada and so on. And, I worked in the arena as we converted from hockey from the Edmonton Oilers over to a major concert and so on. And, yeah, people didn't know, and they were all excited to like show this knucklehead how to do the job. My biggest takeaway to answer your question was that people aren't commodities. And I suspect the listeners would be going, well, duh. But I think my experience was for myself and for most of my peers that we have a job to get done. And oftentimes we lose sight of the fact that people are people. And when we care about them and really take care of them, the longevity and the real purpose of what we're about comes to light. But when we're just focused on results, we tend to treat them as if they're a tool to get our job done. And I realized when they didn't know who I was and I was behind the scenes that I had a real clear look with some of the probing questions that I was able to get into with them about what their lives are like. And, everybody's got a story. Nobody got to where they got to on a winning streak. And, taking a minute to really care about somebody and try to really understand them is not only a really important aspect of living, but ultimately, I was the one that always felt great about it, even though they may have thought I was doing something for them. I felt great actually taking the time to get to know them and understanding them. So it was an amazing takeaway as a leader.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And so, yeah, if any listeners want to check that out, I think it's still up on YouTube. If you
It
search
still
for,
shows up. I have to tell you, from
yeah,
your part of the world, I still get emails 2 or 3 times a year from people going, "Hey, I saw you on Undercover Boss," and this show was like, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago now. I go, oh man,
yeah,
like, I mean, not
uh,
everything in the hour am I proud of. There's actually one time where the emotionality of a situation kind of broke me down. I literally was teared up, and as a CEO, you want to typically, show your stoic side, but hey, I'm human too.
and absolutely, and that's I think one of the great traits that you have. You know how to connect with people, and you understand people, which is what our industry is all about. Um,
Thank you.
which sort of leads into the next thing I wanted to just touch on, which is you've talked about that's a bit of a highlight. That's pretty cool. And look, Richard, just to finish up, just a bit of a crystal ball question for you. What's your take on the future for the venue industry? You've been
Mm.
around it for a long time. Um, are we doing what we need to do to stay relevant, or what do we need to do to keep evolving?
Yeah, what a great question. I would say two things. We live in a world that's bigger, bigger, better, better, faster, faster. It Things are changing so rapidly today. It's exponential. You can compare it to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, and it's exponentially faster and faster every day. So it's not that it's just fast, it's faster and faster and faster. That's how I see it. An example would be, AI. A year ago, a lot of people thought it was A1, right?
Yeah, right.
Now we recognize, and not only has it taken over all of our lives, and learning how to use prompts and what it can actually do. But as an example, I heard a couple of weeks ago about how 90% of a particular college class at a university that I'll allow to remain nameless, that the students that turned in AI generated papers at the end of this particular term. Interestingly, the teacher of this class used an AI generated evaluator to grade the papers. So that's the age we live in. I'm not suggesting that's a good thing, but nobody would have thought of that a few years ago. So technology, keeping an eye on it, with no smoke to you folks. I think one of the things Momentus is so great about is you're not just standing on your laurels. So you guys get it better than anybody, but I do think it's about, you got to have one eye on how rapidly things are changing and adaptability and flexibility. But on the other eye, and the other hand, I say, never losing context of the emotionality of what we have in this industry. It's all about creating great memories and the synergy around that and the experiences. And it's all founded in the guest's experience. And I don't just mean guest service, I mean the overall, from
Right.
start to finish, from everything we do, from the people that we have as vendors, from the UPS person that delivers our packages, everything we do, that having an organization that's culture is steeped in being about serving the people that interact with us, that it's all about having that inspirational why of I'm here to make a difference. And I think those two things combined are probably the most important things that I believe will help keep us relevant.
No, I couldn't agree more. It's evolution, but also making sure we understand, as you say, why we're relevant and what the key thing is, which is exactly like you said,
Agreed.
making, helping make those memories for people coming to our venues. So, Richard, as always, I leave a conversation with you inspired, and I feel motivated.
Thanks.
Really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Look forward to catching up with you in the not too distant future at one of our many times we were able to get together during the year. So thanks again, Richard.
Looking forward to it too. I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity. Thanks so much, Steve.